Hi there, welcome to Cooking in the Nick of Time. Today, we're going to be making whole wheat bread. Now what you need for whole wheat bread: yeast, sugar, a bit of whole wheat flour, some 7-grain cereal, apple cider vinegar, some salt, and some bread flour. It's very simple. I'll show you how to do it. Now you want to start by making the yeast mixture. How you do that is you start with 1 tablespoon of sugar. Then you want 2 teaspoons of yeast. Now, if you've got a small whisk, it'll help, but all I've got is a fork. So what you want to do is just lightly mix that together. Now the reason you're putting sugar into here is because yeast loves sugar. It's one of their favorite foods. It's how they make alcohol if you were to use brewer's yeast. Next, you want to add half a cup of warm, not hot, but not lukewarm water. Imagine if you were a unicellular fungi. Choose a water temperature that you'd feel comfortable with. Now mix that up so you don't get any clumps. And just set it aside and let it foam a bit. Let's talk about yeast for a moment. Now there's over 1,500 varieties of this unicellular fungi all over the world, but today we're only interested in what? The baker's yeast. Now the name yeast comes from the term yeast from the Old English language, and it means to boil or foam or bubble. And this is basically what we want it to do to our bread. We want it to create tiny little air pockets, and this will give the bread a nice fluffy texture. Now next, you want to add 2 cups of nice hot water. Just something from the tap would be good. Right. Next what you want to do is add the whole wheat flour. You want to throw in about 2½ cups. For those of us not in the know, there are several different types of flour out there. You've got your whole wheat flour, which is the whole kernel ground up. It's got little brown bits in it from the bran. All-purpose flour, or white flour, is just the endosperm, and it's got starch and gluten in it, mostly. Now, all-purpose flour doesn't give us quite the elasticity that we need for our bread, so we need to switch with something that has a bit more gluten in it, and that's bread flour. All it is white flour with a bit more gluten. Mouth. Right. Next, you add 1 tablespoon of the apple cider vinegar. You're doing this simply because yeast like to have a slightly acidic environment. It helps them grow a bit. Throw in a bit of salt, because bread without salt is like the earth without the sun. It really makes a difference. And then chuck in 3/4 cup of the 7-grain cereal. This just makes the bread a bit seedy. You don't have to. I like it. Right. Now we just want to mix this for a little while. About 30 seconds. And then you want to add the yeast mixture, which should be nice and foamy. Yes, good, good. And the bread flour. 2½ cups of it. And let it mix for about 5 minutes. Now, while you're letting that mix, just grab a large bowl, enough to fit all the dough into it, and give it a little drizzle of olive oil. Then just smear it around with your hand, up to the sides, And this will be the bowl that the bread sits in while it rises. And I'm simply putting the oil in so that it won't stick. Kind of sucks when it sticks. There we go. Right, now that we're finished mixing, we want to transfer this dough over to the bowl that we've prepared with the oil. Just use your spatula, get all of that in there. Now, if you've got a timer, egg timer, clock, watch, whatever, set it to 1 hour, maybe hour and 15 minutes, if you're like me, and let this puppy rise. Don't forget to cover it with a towel. The yeast like it dark. Right, it's been 1 hour and 15 minutes, so let's have a look at this bread. As you can see, the yeast have performed an admirable job. What we're going to do is called punching the dough. Also, you might have heard of kneading the dough. Throw a little bit of flour there so it doesn't stick to the counter. And pop this out onto the flour. And as you can see, only a little bit of residue left. Great thing oil is. And sprinkle a little bit of flour on top, just so you don't get sticky hands all over. Now make sure you've washed your hands. You want to punch the dough down quite flat, like so, and then fold it, and do it again. Repeat about 8 times or so. And what you want to end up is something like that. Then, take your towel and throw it on there for another 10 minutes. Here we are, ready to check the bread after 10 minutes of letting it sit once again. As you can see, it's gotten a little bit bigger again. Perfect. Then you just want to take a knife and slice this in half. Doesn't have to be exact. Right, and now form loaves. Twist the ends into themselves, go around the bottom. There we go. 1 loaf. And 2 loaf. Perfect. Next, just as a preventative measure, you want to throw a little bit of flour onto your baking sheet, just so the bread doesn't stick. Your oven should be nice and warm about now. So take your loaves and put them on there. Now, just run to the sink and get your hands moist. Then just take your hands, your wet hands, and tap the top of the bread. And then finally give them those signature bread slices at the top. And there we go. They're ready to go in the oven. Bake them for 45 minutes to 1 hour. Basically what you want to look for is pick this up, and if the bottom is hollow sounding, you've got good bread. Okay, it's been about 1 hour. I've just taken these out of the oven. They're nice and warm. As you can see here, the bottom's nicely golden, top's nicely golden. You tap the bottom, and you should hear a hollow sound. It is a well done loaf. Now you've got to let these sit for a little bit, otherwise you'll have a moist mess if you cut it open. You have to let it set. It should take about 45 minutes or so. Anyways, after that, you make a sandwich, throw some Nutella on there. It's all good. Enjoy and happy cooking.